According to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, fibroids affect up to 80% of women by the age of 50, causing a range of symptoms from heavy menstrual bleeding to pelvic pain. If you or a loved one are experiencing these symptoms, stay tuned for the remedies. Hello everyone, I'm Raven White. I would like to welcome you to Remedy Roadmap, where we explore various topics common in our society and address them from a lifestyle point of view. And please note that while we discuss health-related topics, the information provided is for general knowledge and should not replace your primary care physician's advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for personalized care. So today we have two wonderful guests on the show, Maricia Anglade, women's hormonal health advocate and educator, and Sarai Rodriguez, Wildwood Lifestyle Center nutritionist. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, Reagan.
So I would like to know, if you can first tell me, what is a fibroid?
Fibroids are tumors, benign tumors that grows in the inner and outer walls of the uterus. Now, they can remain the same size for years, but they can also grow from the size of a penny to the size of a football or even larger.
Because I actually had a friend. It was smaller at one point. She thought she can be able to deal with it, right? Yes. And she was trying to do it naturally. And it's not a problem with that, because I actually shrunk my first ones naturally. But it came back with a vengeance after my dad died, right? And it came back with cysts. And I think that is a huge thing when we are looking at what are some of the factors that causes fibroids, who puts who at risk, because in all essence, hers kept growing, right? Even though she was trying to do natural remedies, you almost have to look at what would cause the fibroids to grow when you're trying to do the right things to decrease it. So let me ask this next question for you all. What could cause fibroids and who's at risk for that?
Well, allegedly, researchers say that there's an unknown cause. There's no real cause that they can pinpoint to why fibroids exist and why they grow. But there are so many factors that play a role. You mentioned your girlfriend or a friend of yours had fibroids that was very small and it grew, or yours was shrunk and it grew back. Stress, I believe, play a huge role.
Yes.
There are hormonal factors. There are even research that shows that birth control pills play a role.
Girl, talk
in
about it.
Running havoc in a woman's body. And then there's chemicals that we have, environmental chemicals or things that we use from our products, our household products, the makeup that we put, the products on our hair and our skin. All of these are factors that play a role of the birth of fibroids in a woman's body.
Yes, because 60% of whatever you put on your skin goes into your bloodstream.
Exactly.
So if you're putting in chemicals on the brain, it's going to go somewhere, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about some other causes we could have.
And one of the things is that we see with overweight.
Okay.
Obesity can also trigger it. And you mentioned birth control pills, and one of the reasons, actually I have a friend that she was having some irregularities with her periods, so guess what they put her on?
Birth control.
Birth control.
Exactly.
What was one of the results or causes? Gain weight.
Right.
And she started feeling like fatigue. And there were other symptoms that this, you know, as a result. But definitely gaining weight is is one of the results or can cause fibroids. Now let's talk about diet.
Okay.
And when I think about that, I think about inflammation. And why is that? Because inflammation causes tumors. And what did you mention that a fibroid is?
A tumor.
It's a tumor. It's benign,
Yes.
Right.
but it's still a tumor.
Right.
Now, what are the foods that cause inflammation in the body?
All right. You got to say it.
Yes.
Sugar. Everyone knows I
Your
love
favorite,
sugar.
right? So sugar is definitely one of that. And especially because foods convert into sugar. We need sugar in our bodies, right? But we're talking about the simple carbohydrates that that go very easily to the bloodstream. Now, when there's too much insulin, too much sugar in the blood, then insulin has to come to the rescue.
Okay.
And that is when there's too much insulin, then it triggers imbalance in your hormones.
Okay.
So, but let's continue with inflammation.
Okay.
So sugar is one.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about three.
Okay.
The second one is animal products.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And when we come to animal products, especially red meat, they are packed with hormones. Okay. So besides that, they don't have any fiber, but that's another topic.
That's another topic.
Right in itself, and all of the chemicals that they put, so you see that this red meat is just as fresh as. But these are chemicals, these are colorants that they are putting. You don't know what those chemicals are. And that includes also fats. So animal products are very high in fats, but we're also talking that vegetable oils are highly inflammatory.
Wow.
They have a lot of omega-6. So there is a big imbalance because we consume less omega-3s and we consume a lot of omega-6 that are very present in vegetable oils. Everything is fried. When we go to the store and we buy anything that is prepackaged and that is in the fridge or in the freezer, probably when you read at the ingredients, vegetable oils.
Right.
Some
That's
kind.
true. Yes.
So a lot of inflammation in the body can cause tumors to grow, including fibroids.
Now, you've given me a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these causes, right? Let's start looking at who's at risk for this. Because the causes is going to, I think, and you can correct me, I think they may affect people differently for different reasons, right? So talk to me about that.
Because, like I mentioned, there's so many causes.
Right.
So I mentioned some, and there are so many. The list
So many
goes
more.
on and the list goes on and on. That
Right.
what might be the cause for myself may not be the cause for you.
Right.
But research shows that 90% of African American women are plagued with fibroids, and you have 70% of Caucasian and Hispanic women. But if you realize, the number is high, the percentage is high for both groups.
Right.
So for me, fibroids affects women. That's
Right.
it affects women.
Okay.
And being one that experienced fibroids, when we talked about the causes, but there's also the symptoms. It may be a benign tumor, and we know that it's not life-threatening, but it still runs havoc in your day-to-day life.
Right.
The symptoms that I experienced was horrific. I compare it to a woman giving birth. You know, the pain that they go through. We had the bloating of the stomach, the pain in the abdomen, the lower back pain. For me, I was throwing up.
Wow.
By the time that pain ceased, I didn't know because I was knocked out.
Wow.
And so there's so many symptoms and pains, heavy bleeding that comes with having fibroids, that even though it's not life-threatening, it's still life-altering. And so those are the things that would make women want to seek help in experiencing some of those symptoms. So we know the causes, and here are some of the symptoms, and women are suffering because of it.
Right. I will say this. Now, it is said, though, in study, that if the tumor goes too long, grows too large, it has the risk of becoming cancerous, right? Which is some of the reasons why you'll find doctors say, let's take it out surgically, right? Because they don't want to take that risk, right? But then it seemed like sometimes they want to take it out and end up taking out your whole uterus at times, even for smaller fibroids. And I find that in looking at the causes, if you can look at the causes, at least it starts to help you say, okay, well, if I can remedy these things, maybe I won't need the surgery, right?
Yes.
And so like I explained to you, my friend did natural remedies. It didn't work out because she was a very stressed person.
Yes.
Very stressed person. But then let's start asking, what causes stress in people's lives who are at risk for this, right? And I have noticed there are some research out there now, more than ever now, that's bringing in what has happened in childhood,
Yes.
right? What are the environments that they're living in?
Yes.
Right? The ACE study, I'll say this really quickly about the ACE study. That was pretty much a study designed in 1994, 95 with doctors in Kaiser Permanente, just showing how childhood traumas can lead into adulthood. Nothing else is happening to these people, but it's still the effects of it, because again, 95% of your day is run by your subconscious. So in looking at this, it's good to look at what is happening in a person, because if they're already in a habit, this is how I handle stress, this is how I reason my environment, this is what I'm drawn to eat, right? This is the only way I know how to cook. This is how I handle stress. With that, if someone can remedy those things, right, and maybe can help somebody. So I want to still get into this. I don't want to leave away from this. What are some of the effects that fibroids have on a woman's life? Because I think it only increases even more. Right? Before we even get into, hey, this is what you can do for it, or this is some of the lifestyle changes you can make for it, let's look at some of the causes again and how it's really affecting a woman's life. Can you get into that for me?
Yes, like for myself, when I was experiencing the horrific pain, I couldn't go to work. So here it is, I have to go to work, I have to make income, I have to pay my bills, but it's so altering that I can't even go to work.
Right.
And so you find women having experienced that as well. I had clients that come to me that they miss days out of work. And so that is one way that it plagues you, that it alters your livelihood. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were talking about heavy bleeding and pain.
Right.
So there is fear to go out.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because is there a bathroom close by? Because I will have to change.
Right.
You know, or what if the pain comes?
Right.
And then most of the times when that pain comes, you feel your waist down, your legs are even affected, you feel weak to even walk, you feel fatigued, you are tired. There is a lot of stress, emotional stress, like you get irritated because you cannot think well because you are focused on the pain that you're struggling right now. And other things is that it can cause constipation.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the position or where the fibroid is and how large it is, it can press the rectum, making it hard to pass to.
Also pushing you to urinate.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's the other thing, exactly, your bladder.
Is that what it called?
Incontinence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see, I have a friend that she was talking to with me, her experience. At the end, she had to have surgery. And guess what made her? Because she was already experiencing these issues, like with pain, bloatiness, constant urination, all of this. But what made her take the decision to have surgery was that she was suffering from cystitis. Hopefully I'm saying it right. And that is an urinary tract infection.
Okay.
So infection can come as a result of fibroids because of the heavy bleeding. And this cystitis, this infection is horrible because it comes right after your period and it gives you this burning sensation every time you're going to urinate. So it's not only that every time that you're going to do it, but you feel the need of constantly urinating. So you go there and it's like this burning
And so they would almost think it's
sensation.
urinary tract infection.
Yes.
And try to treat it for that. And so that's another thing. You're getting treated for things.
Yes.
Because they're treating symptoms and not getting sometimes to the issue and dealing with that. That is so true. That is really bad. I do have a friend who's actually a lawyer, and she would bleed out in the courtroom. And she would have to bring change of clothes.
Ew.
And it is a horrible thing, right? Because even so, when you do the surgeries, and I'm not steering people away from doing surgeries. I will let them between them, God, and the doctors, right?
Amen.
But it doesn't promise you they won't come back. So that's why it's always good to get to the root cause, right? Because they will come back, right?
I have to piggyback off the surgery, not to stay there. 99% of the time they come back.
Oh, yeah.
I had a girlfriend that recently did surgery. Within 2 years, it came back. And she almost risked her life after doing the surgery. And so, I'm constantly telling women, if you do go that route, make sure that you're taking the proper measures to make some lifestyle changes and manage your stress. Another reason that it affects women and why they might lean towards surgery, even without the pain, it's the look. For some women, it causes a bulging stomach.
Right.
And
Almost like you're pregnant.
Yes, exactly. And then you're constantly being asked, are you pregnant?
Exactly.
And you're embarrassed by that. And you know, as women, we're constantly it's on the forefront of our looks. You know, as we get older, as we age, we're always being shown that we need to have a certain look. And so it plays on a woman's self-esteem when they have that. And so they might lean towards surgery more for cosmetic reason versus the pain.
Right. Back pain comes with it, especially. I sometimes have pelvic pain. I'll feel it, and it's like this pressure that happens right there. Again, they told me, you have over 20, so we're not even counting. Like, oh my.
Oh, yes.
And so it's something where I'm trying to get to the root causes of myself, and I know a lot of mine is grief, because it always comes back with grief, because I've had deaths back to back each year, and I'm learning that I'm not taking time to grieve, right? Because as a woman, especially as a single woman, I have to make sure my house is clean. I have to make sure I go to work. I have to make sure my food is done. And so it's nowhere I can stop and say, he'll take care of it. I have to do it myself. And so with that in mind, this is where God really comes in. For those who do not have Jesus, it really comes in, how do I get to the point of time management and delegation and asking for help? But for those who have Jesus, it really is first, Jesus, I need your help, right? I need you to help me realize how to manage my time. What do I need to say I need help in? But what is causing me to stress, right? If people are not sleeping, right? If people are not, and let's be honest, most people we know have had some traumatic event in the past.
Yes.
If you're breathing, you had it.
Thank you, right?
Yes.
Negative words spoken to you, feeling inadequate at work, right? These are negative things. So when you're at risk, you're talking about women, because so far there's no study I've seen yet that men have it. It's, right? So it seems like, we're dealing with estrogen getting high, right? So, and if you're eating certain foods, it's bothering your liver that controls also the estrogen.
Also sodium. Food
Sodium.
high in sodiums will bother your liver. Yeah.
But let's also talk, I want to get back to it. I know we mentioned it, but let's get even back to the birth control, because that is given easy like Sunday morning.
Yes.
Right? As soon as
Yes.
you have any cramps or pain or whichever, here's the birth control pill. Tell me, what is that doing to the body?
Oh, it runs havoc on a woman's body. And it's unfortunate that many women do not know this. They take birth control pills, trusting their doctor for what it's supposed to relieve, but not knowing the lifelong repercussion it has for them. When I looked into birth control pills and its connection with fibroids and other female-related issues, I found that in the research that the residue of birth control pills stays in your body and can even be transferred to when you give birth to your children. And that is why it's so important for women to research the long-lasting effect that birth control has, not only to themselves, but for their children as well.
So here's a question I have for you. I've heard this, and you can tell me if this is true or not, that if you've actually had your menstruation before the age of 12, you need to now start preparing, because the body it's too soon, right? Now you have this hormonal imbalance, right? The hormonal imbalance is now happening in children, right? And that's one of the indicators. And because that's one of the indicators, you can have fibroids later on in life. They were saying it's almost like a guarantee. Talk to me about that.
It's interesting that you say that, Raven, because so many people don't talk about hormone imbalance in children. And the fact that young girls are having their period at age 8.
I had it at 9.
My sister's at 9, myself at 11, and that is still young. The fact that young girls are having their cycle so early is not normal. A lot of the things they're saying are normal are not normal. And so yes, it would be a great idea. It would be good for women who understand hormonal imbalance to start understanding it as young for their little girls. And I think if more women are educated, and that is the reason that I'm so focused on hormonal imbalance, so that more women are educated for their little girls. Because if my mother had the knowledge that I have now, then we can start preparing as early as applying some of the things that we're going to talk about very early, rather than waiting until we're in our 40s and suffering, or on our 30s and suffering.
So, and I agree with you, because at this stage, if a child is at least at 11 and below, I think parents should ask the question, right? If my child is having their menstruation, can I ask the doctor, is there any hormonal imbalance, right? Because the normal range is really 12 and up, right? After that, then, that's something that we should get out of the fear mode for, but you still want to look into some things. As parents, we want to give them something to say, what should I be looking for my child, right? That's normal, at least for my child. Because every doctor is going to say something different. Researchers may say something different, but you want to do your best as a parent, right? And so we want to give parents something, as well as women who are already having fibroids now, right? So give us some remedies, right? Give me a few insights. Make sure you can look into this. I think we talked about something before, physically they can look into, as well as here's some remedies. So if you could start with that for me.
It's important, as being one who had an early cycle, to look at, is there any stress that the child might be going through?
Okay.
What is their environment looking like? What is their home life looking like? Check in with them, because in my opinion and the research that I've done, for me that was too early, but I can, without going into too much, there was a stressful situation that had transpired before my cycle happened. So that is one thing that I would look in. But I would definitely, the second is, I mentioned, and we talked about causes, about chemicals and toxins. A lot of that can be found in the relaxers that we put in our girls' hair too early in age. That plays a factor. That causes endocrine disruptors in the body.
So stop doing it.
Yes, I would recommend not do it so early. I don't want to tell people what to do. I do want to share the education of the harm it can be done with that. You make your own decision, but not so early. The relaxers, the makeup that we put on these little girls at 4 or 5, and it's cute. I know we want our little girls to look so cute, but it's too early, and they're causing damage to their hormones, because another way that you can intake something, one way is through your mouth, we know that. Most people don't always think about that you can intake things through the pores of your skin.
Right.
And so I would just say, hold off, not so early on the relaxers, because of it can cause hormonal imbalance, and because of the chemicals on there, as well as what we put in our skin. Just start there.
Let me piggyback on that. I had a friend that was in college, and she decided to go into cosmetology school. And so what happened, they showed a video of the effects of what they do to clients. And this lady passed away. And so there was a accumulation of liquid between the skull and the brain from the chemicals, you know, the relaxers that you put in. And she said, oh no, I'm not doing that. And so in the mindset that I have, everyone has a choice.
Yes.
If you choose to still get relaxers, no problem. But at least it's good to know the effects, right?
Yes.
Not all of them will cause fibroids.
No.
But it can cause something,
Yes.
right? And so I think it's good if parents will know, what should I be looking for, right? If my child is developing too soon, in my eyes, at 9 and she's developing, right? Is that okay? If my child is having now her menstrual, is that normal? It's good to be able to ask questions, but not only do I want you to address what can a person do now, right? What can a person do now? What can a parent think about for their child, right? As well as for a person who has fibroids now in adulthood.
I definitely would look at, we talked about stress. We don't understand that children can have stress, whether it's environment of the home or at school, or something going on with them. Check in with your children. And I'm talking from experience, because when I got my cycle early and I was developing early, as you just mentioned, there were things going on. So check in with our children. I know sometimes we get busy and caught up, we don't know that they're stressed, and we know that stress affects everybody, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Right.
The second thing I would look at, we talked about already, the relaxers. Don't put these things so early on the children. And I don't want to use the word don't, but consider delaying the process.
Right.
The makeup we're doing so early on our girls. This is stuff that people did at junior high, maybe high school, if even, but now we're doing it so early as 3 or 4 lipstick. All these things create endocrine disruptors in our body. They mimic estrogen in our body. So I would say to parents, delay the process on things that can wait if you choose to do them.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, I would like to add 2 things, and one is exercise.
Okay.
Regularity in exercise, because it helps to regulate hormones. How important it is just to exercise, plus you are taking out toxins out of your system through the biggest organ that you have, which is the skin.
Right.
And the other thing is to look in your shopping cart. What are you putting in that later on is going to be on your plate? Is that a lot of inflammatory foods, like a lot
sugar.
of animal products, sugars, and fat and vegetable oils, or it's going to be more like an anti-inflammatory diet full with different colors from vegetables and fruits and whole grains and beans as well.
So here's one of the things, and I want you to continue on. I know you have more, but I want to interject. Children today aren't exercising.
They are not.
I know
They are
that
not
even
eating
in
healthy either.
schools, unless it was elementary and you had recess, now in middle school, the girls are just sitting on the bleachers, maybe looking at the boys.
In the phone?
On the phones.
Yes.
Yeah, all
On
the
phones.
time. We're walking.
Right? And that's the thing. We're not even getting active anymore, younger and younger, right?
And combining that with the kind of food that they are eating, let me just go to the store, get this whatever fried food, is
Right.
there, and chips are the easiest thing. And where is fruits and where are vegetables and where
When are they eating breakfast?
we are not eating breakfast. And that also helps people to gain weight because our bodies work with metabolism.
Right.
So if we start eating after 8:30 a.m., we're more prone to suffer from metabolic diseases, including obesity and diabetes.
Wow.
Just
Education is
by eating the first meal after 8:30 a.m.
Wow.
Just because our bodies work with metabolism.
Right, and you can tell the world is completely against that.
Yes, yes.
And which one is the biggest meal of the day?
Lunch
Worldwide.
or dinner.
Breakfast.
Dinner.
Dinner.
Well, it's
Dinner.
supposed to be breakfast.
Yes.
It helps people.
And I see that with the guests all the time at the Lifestyle Center.
Right.
Tell me, what do you eat? Skip breakfast. I'm not hungry at that time. How can you be hungry if you are eating a huge meal at night?
Right.
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 Education is needed. We talk about people diet, not choosing the right food. A lot of times people really don't know, and I think education is paramount, and that's why it is a goal for us to educate people on what you mentioned, what Sarai mentioned about eating healthy meals. We talked about water.
Right.
We talked about eating healthy. There are other things that can be done. Sleep. Sleep can actually cause PM. If not having enough sleep can affect your menstrual cycle, and it can also help affect fibroids growth as well. So sleep is important. There are things that God has given us, like natural remedies. He said the herbs are for the healing of the land. Those things are still necessary in balancing the hormones. So there are herbs that can help as well.
Give me 2 remedies that we can leave the audience with.
Okay, yes. Internally, I would recommend chase tree berry as a tea, and externally, I would apply the castor oil pack using castor oil.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you so much, Sarai, for joining us. I want to leave you with a nugget as well. Mark 5:34. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith has made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague. Thank you for joining us on Remedy Roadmap. See you next time. And you know what? Let me throw this one in there for you. Do not be discouraged by what the world does, but you be encouraged in who God is. Bye.
Amen.